So when we start, we want to look at the recession point. That's the point on the side of the hairline that meets the top of the hair, and kind of just move the top hair out of the way. Try to make the section as clean as possible, but it's just really about keeping the side hair on the side and the top hair on the top. Then we start with a large clip, generally a number 4 will do, and this is just to set our canvas. What we want to do here is just lay out the area that we're going to be cutting. Now you'll see when I get closer to the top of the head, I either curve back or just go straight up. And that's to ensure that you're keeping the clipper flat on the head. Now we go down one clip to a number 3. And we'll just work below the area that we worked in before. Same thing, keeping the clipper flat to the head, and when we reach the round of the head, which is right around the part where the side meets the top, we don't dig in, we just go straight up and come off of the head. Now we're going to take a number 1 with the lever closed, meaning all the way up, and we're going to put our guideline in. You can see where I pointed to. That's about as high as we're going to go, and we're just going to make that 1 inch or ½ inch section depending on what part you're in. Comb it, clean it up a bit, make sure you get all of the hair. Now we'll move on to using a number 2, and we're going to do it with the lever open. Work right above the line that we've made, but below our last section when we were working with the number 3. Now you can move the lever up and work below your previous section. Now we go back to our number 1. We're going to open the lever, so that's about a 1.5, and we're going to work right on that dark line that you see between the number 1 and the number 2. Be careful not to go too high here, otherwise you'll push the entire fade up. Keep the blade flat to the head, and as you move higher up, just let it go straight up. Don't dig into the side and don't follow the round of the head. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Taking that number 4, working straight up. Now we'll go to the number 3, work right below our last section. Go super fast like I am. Now our number 1, lever closed, and we're going to put our guideline in. We're going to work right to about the temple peak point, which is where the hairline kind of curves towards the sideburn, and we're just going to clean up that area with the number 1 below it. Now switching to our number 2, I'm going to open up the guard, and we're going to work right above the guideline we put in. Just make sure you keep everything flat to the head. Don't dig in too much and you won't take off the wrong hair. Now we're going back to our number 1, lever open. And we're working right on that dark line between the number 2 and the number 1 guideline we put. You may need to nudge the lever up a bit to get rid of some dark spots. You can use the corner of the clipper. You don't always have to use the entire surface of the blade. And just clean it up the best you can. And now you see when we release the clip and bring the top hair into that section, everything's laying pretty well. Now what we want to do is kind of section from around the point of the cowlick and push that top hair out of the way, either with a clip or just be mindful of keeping it out of the way. And we'll work with the hair below that and follow the steps that we previously did on both sides. So we're going to start with our number 4. We're going to work going straight up and down. Don't follow the curve of the head. This way we don't go too short. Go down to our number 3. Here I have the lever open just because when you're working on the back, you just kind of want to blend downward. So just to be safe, start with the lever open, and then you can tighten it by closing it and work right underneath your previous section. Go straight up. When you get to a round, you come off the head. Now we go to our number 2, lever open, and we work below our previous section. As we're working, straight up and down, and we can move the lever closed and work below the last area we will work. Now you can see our blend is coming together nicely. We switch to the number 1, and here what I'm going to do is work with it open right under the number 2 we just did. And that's just because in the back I like to be safe and not put any real hard lines in that I don't have to. So if I can just blend downward, it just makes it a smoother blend and makes our lives a bit easier. And now you can close up the guard and just work in that bottom space. And what that does is give you that drop illusion, so the fade doesn't go too high, and you're able to, if you need to, go a bit higher. We can always cut more hair off, we can't put it back on. So now we have our blend in pretty well. There's some choppiness in the back, but much better than before. Moving on to the top. Thoroughly saturate the hair. If it's long enough and you're brushing the hair to the back, then that's the way we'll work. If you have shorter hair but you're still doing a scissor cut, you can comb it forward. Now we're going to go in between the bridge of the nose and make our first section. The best way to ensure that you're going to get a clean section is to put your finger on the tip of the comb and just follow it to the back of the hairline. Then you can split. Now in this case you don't have to be super precise. I'm going to give you kind of a fail-safe way to get an even cut on top. So now that we have that section in the middle, what we're going to do is lift it straight up, ensuring that our fingers are parallel to the floor, and we're going to make a straight cut. And we're going to do that in each section all the way to the back. And what this is doing is setting a guideline, so then that hair that we've combed out of the way, we'll be able to play off of this guideline, and we'll be able to ensure that we have an even cut all the way through. Now you'll see when I come to the back, I turn my fingers back up and parallel to the floor. I don't just cut with the head shape. So even though I'm taking hair from the back, I'm curving it back up. And what this does is ensure the length you need for that hair to lay down in the back. Even trained barbers tend to cut that piece off, and that's why they're always telling you that your cowlick is sticking up. If you leave enough length, the cowlick will lay down. Now you can see here that we have a guideline that's easy to follow from that middle section that we cut. And we can just keep working back, take hair on that side of the head, and cut straight with parallel fingers. Make sure you don't cut the guide any shorter, but you just follow the guide all the way back until there's no more hair. And you'll see the hair starting to lay back. It's much shorter, but can still lay backward. Same thing here, you can see a clearly delineated line. Now, depending on the style that the client had before or your quarantine partner had before, not every section may need the same amount of cutting. This is just a way to get through and to make sure everything's even and able to be styled. It's not necessarily the way that I or another stylist would approach the haircut. Now you can wet it down again, and you can cross-check by taking sections the opposite way. So here we're going to go here we go side to side. Before we were going from the front to the back, and just checking that our sections are all pretty clean. If you have a piece of hair sticking up, you can also pull the hair straight out from the back, so it'll be perpendicular to the floor. And if you have a few little ridges, you can just cut that off. So now we're pretty close to having a solid haircut that will get through for the next couple of weeks. Or if you want to keep practicing, you can do this all again next week. And the hair is laying pretty well all the way around. So in this case, in this area, I would usually do a scissor over comb, but I don't want you to have to try that technique. So if you come under and pull the hair straight out from where it grows, and just cut any areas that are very uneven or any ridges that fit in your fingertips. Other than that, you can leave this area alone, because when it's dried and styled, it'll lay back nicely. This point here is just an area that wasn't part of either one of our sections. So what we're doing is now connecting the top to the back. That length comes from when we pulled the top parallel to the floor in order to preserve that length. So you can cut off some of those points just to ensure that everything lays nice and clean. Try to do this with a sharp hair cutting shear. Paper scissors, chicken scissors, things of that nature will wreck the hair, and when it grows back there's going to be a lot of split edges, a lot of damage, so you want something really sharp. Also, drinking while you're doing it It's a lot of fun. Now we're just blow drying, and what we're doing is kind of wrap drying it. So we're just taking a bent brush and brushing close to the scalp so that everything lays the way that we want it. If you're having one of those bad hair days where things don't seem to be sitting right, this is what's called a wrap dry, and you can just brush everything in the opposite direction. Brush it in all directions, and then when you blow dry it back into place, it's almost like starting from ground zero, as opposed to trying to get it in place with whatever your hair was trying to do that morning. When you have it in place where you kind of like how it's sitting, you can hit it with cool air. And here we have our finished product. You can style it straight back, or you can put a part, or you can do whatever you usually do because you have enough length and you also know that the top is pretty much all even.